Thanks for joining us. I'm Reagan Scott. Tonight, federal investigators are looking at evidence they gathered during a search at Senator Ted Stevens' home in Girdwood yesterday. A lawyer who was briefed on the search said investigators spent some time looking at a case of wine. They even took pictures of individual wines. Authorities have not yet made public what was found during the search and what it could mean for the investigation of the senator. Meanwhile, Stevens says he will maintain his silence about the matter until the probe is complete. Well, tonight, CBS News compiled numbers showing Vico executives have contributed more than $70,000 to Stevens' campaigns. As head of the Senate Appropriations Committee, Stevens helped steer $30 million in federal contracts to Vico, and Vico reportedly paid Stevens' son Ben upwards of $240,000 in consulting fees while he was in Alaska state legislature. The FBI has searched his offices as well. Well, tonight, one political activist is saying a report published today shows just how deep Ben Stevens is involved in all of this. Ray Metcalf accuses Ted Stevens of funneling his son's money through a land deal. It is the same land deal this report says is part of this growing federal corruption probe. Our complete coverage continues with CBS 11's Matthew Simon, who is standing by live in the newsroom tonight. Matthew.
And good evening to you, Reagan. This report was published this morning in the Capitol Hill newspaper Roll Call. A self-proclaimed Stevens family critic, Metcalf says once he read about the sewer land deal the report says is why Stevens is now under investigation. Metcalf says he knew a long time ago this day was coming.
I've been talking about the corruption that's going on in this state for a long time, and there are no surprises.
No surprises to Ray Metcalf, the political activist who closely followed the 2005 events the Roll Call article details. The story says FBI and Interior Department officials are trying to find out if Stevens abused his power when he gave more than $1 million federal dollars to Sea Life Center officials in Seward. Since it opened in 1998, the marine facility has received $50 million federal dollars thanks to Stevens. Now the article says federal investigators want to know if there was anything unethical about a land deal involving the center.
There was appropriation put in to buy these properties that Trevor had tied up from him at a huge profit.
What Metcalf means by appropriation is money, and the Trevor Metcalf is talking about is Stevens' former aide, Trevor McCabe. At the time Stevens assigned the money, his son, Ben Stevens, was the state Senate president and McCabe's business partner. In 2005, it is widely reported McCabe wanted to sell the land he owned next to the Sea Life Center's property to National Park Service officials. But that deal fell through. City council members had expected to receive some of that money. Instead, Stevens shifted some of that money to Sea Life Center officials, who ultimately purchased the land for more money than the National Park Service was willing to pay. The article says McCabe ended up making about $600,000.
A lot of people in Seward are very unhappy with it because the federal government is basically funding new facilities for the brand new competition that's in there now, competing with the people who have been there in business for years and years and years.
Metcalf eventually filed an APOC complaint. The commission threw it out. To this day, Metcalf is still convinced this is just one example of how Stevens abused his power and funneled his son money.
When Ted says, "Oh, gee, I didn't know my son was going to benefit from that," bull.
Our attempts to reach Trevor McCabe were unsuccessful, and Senator Stevens' press secretary says he's sticking to the statement he made yesterday, where he says he will continue his policy of not commenting on this until the investigation has concluded. Live tonight in the newsroom, Matthew Simon, CBS 11 News.
Well, that Roll Call article also says a Senate subcommittee is investigating Senator Stevens' role in another land deal. It involves this vacant lot on Denali near the Lusac Library. The article says National Archives and Records Administration officials purchased the property in 2004. They used federal funding Stevens set aside to buy the land from Stevens' two business partners, Leonard Hyde and John Rubini. The National Archives and Records Administration paid $3.5 million for the land. That's more than double of what Hyde and Rubini paid. Stevens officials defended the purchase and said he had no role in selecting the site. Meanwhile, a watchdog group in Washington is calling on Stevens to temporarily stop participating participating in Senate committees until the investigation is over. Taxpayers for Common Sense specifically want Stevens to step down from committees where he has the power to make appropriations. Senate Republicans have not said how they plan to handle the matter. Senator Lisa Murkowski is urging Alaskans to wait and see what happens before jumping to any conclusions about Senator Stevens. In a statement today, Murkowski said, quote, Senator Stevens has served his country and the state of Alaska with distinction for over 60 years. Senator Stevens has the right to have the facts established in this matter. New tonight at 10, there's another company that is getting